my name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk. We are brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and filmed live every Sunday night here at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City.
And I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Thanks for joining us on this last Sunday of September. Happy for you to be here, either with us at the pub or online. And it's my kind of unique duty to introduce a gentleman that's introduced me many times on WOND Radio, News Talk 1400, Bob Burns. You hear his voice all the time. You get to see him today, Bob. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Dan.
Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Good, Palma. I told you before, Dan, the sign said gentlemen, and I used a room anyway.
Well, appreciate you being here. And, you know, one of the things we do talk about, storms and hurricanes and nor'easters and flooding and trying to adapt along the shore. And one of the more important things is getting the word out during storms. And what we're going to talk to you about today, Bob, is a little bit about radio's role. So much of technology has changed, but radio's vital role after storms has not. In fact, it's basically been steadfast through the years. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but first tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born right here in Atlantic City. It was a cold night. No, it was actually a warm night.
April 20th, right? Not, I want to give out your birthday,
April 20th, yeah.
but I wish you a happy birthday on the air, April 20th every year. So it shouldn't be a cold night, on the 17th, yes.
My parents moved to Northfield when I was 6 months old. I finally found them when I was 8. But I grew up on the mainland, went to mainland regional, and did a lot of local things. And I just ended up doing a lot of crazy stuff because I never had any children, and I just got to do things that I just would never expected I would have been able to do. One of which I was mayor of Egg Harbor Township for a couple of years. I was on the township committee for 6 years, and part of my election had to do with Tom Quirk. He worked some on it, but he was always there when we needed him. But I've had an interesting life, and it's just been a lot of fun. And my major thing in life was just to have a good time, and I've been successful in that so far.
And now your crazy stuff you're doing is appearing with us on a Sunday night on Tidal Flooding.
Sunday night.
Sorry, we appreciate you being here.
At the Irish Pub, a place I've been to many times.
I thought you've never been to a pub before in your life. That was what you said. No?
Yeah,
stand corrected.
That's what I said. Yeah. So, no, I appreciate you guys inviting me over. It's cool. And this Coastal Alliance that you're affiliated with, that's a great organization. I think that they should do well. And I know Tom works really hard on it, and glad to see him doing that. So.
Yes, we are here at the Irish Pub every Sunday night, so you can actually join us here for a drink at the bar or something to eat. So Bob, can you tell us when you got started your career in media and radio? Did you always know that's what you wanted to do, or did it just kind of fall in your lap?
I grew up in the age of radio, and I spent most of my youth listening to radio. I had a book I used to take to school that I cut the center out, and I had a little radio that would fit inside of it, and I had a wire that came up my sleeve, and I used to put the thing in my ear to listen to radio. And most of that time, I got to listen to a guy named Pinky Kravitz. And Pinky Kravitz was everybody who did anything in talk radio in this area went through Pinky Kravitz. And I listened to him, and Pinky was just an absolute star when there was a storm coming in. He thrived on that. And I listened to him describe the storms and describe what the conditions were and talk with people on the phone and tell them what they had to do and how to preserve their lives. And that's what I grew up listening to. So as time went on, I was running a family tire and auto business, and I began to advertise with Pinky Kravitz. And one day I called him up. I said, Pinky, you have all these food contests on your show, and you never invite me over. You never invite me over to be a judge. So he invited me over to be a judge one time. It was in 1986. And after I got done judging the cookies, he put me on the air, and people started calling and asking me questions about their cars. And Pinky said to me, you need to do this once a month. You need to come over and be on my show once a month. So I did. Once a month I'd go over and I'd be on his show, and I'd talk about cars. And Pinky started calling me the Automator. So what happened was, it was in the time when I was running for political office. So I'd have to step down for a couple of months. I'd get reelected and I'd go back on the air. And when I lost the election in Egg Harbor Township in 1996, Dick Ireland was the station manager at WOND, and I started bugging him. I started bugging him. It was before text. It was before any kind of stuff like that. I would fax him. I would call him. I would stop in. I said, you had this show on Saturday morning about colon health. I said, who cares about colon health? I want to do my Auto Maven show at 7 o'clock on Saturday mornings. So I went in one afternoon. Stuart Abrams from the station called me up and said, one of Pinky's guest hosts can't be in at 4 o'clock. Can you come and do his show? And I really was not in condition to drive, but I said, oh, what the hell.
Oh, boy.
So I drove over to the station and I did the first hour. And I got done the first hour, and there, standing in the hallway, is Stuart Abrams. And he says, Dick Ireland wants to see you after the show, and can you do the second hour? Because Pinky's second guest didn't show up. So I said, okay, what the hell? So I did the second hour. And after the show was over, I went upstairs, and I thought for sure I said something stupid in the first hour. And Dick Ireland looks at me and he says, well, you have your choice. You have a choice between 7 a.m. or 4 o'clock on Saturday to do your show. I said, I'll take 7 o'clock. And, he thought it was kind of bizarre, but at the time, I would thought that 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, not too many people would be listening to WOND. So I started my Saturday show on the Ides of March, 1997. And
that's why they started saying "Beware the Ides of March."
That's right.
Because of that show, yeah. Okay,
A2, Dan. But that show's been on for 21 years, continuously, and I'm just real proud of it. And then I always wanted to be on the radio like that, but I never really thought it was going to happen. And I just it's like the story of my life is stumbling into things, and I just kind of stumbled into things. I call it dumb luck, and it happens to me all the time, and I'm just very fortunate. And so now I have another show, which is Monday through Friday. It's called Bob Burns in Your Afternoon. Real tricky, It's just like my dad named the business and me after him. And that show's on Monday to Friday, 1 to 3. And I love it. It's a lot of fun, and I get to interact with people, and I get a lot of callers. I have some guests. I have some regular guests that come in. Dan was a guest a lot, and we always had a lot of fun. So that's how it all started, and that's how it ended up today. And I'm just having a great time. I have a good time, and that's what I try to do.
And in your tenure, especially with Bob Burns in Your Afternoon, a little before that, you had that weekly Friday night kind of recap show that we were on.
Yeah, he was there that night at the direction. You just seen his face. He was sitting across from me, and he goes, "There's something going on." It's like 9:45. There's something going on. I got to get out of here. Boom! He takes off, and then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. It was him. It was him. I'll tell you. I saw his face. I said, boy, there's something up. I'd never seen him look like that before. But yeah, he was a little fired up on that. But I'm sorry.
And that's where we meteorologists thrive in the forecasting, and then you guys thrive in keeping people informed. During the storm, of course, the duration you really don't have a whole lot of warning.
Yeah.
But then after the storm, that's where radio becomes important.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
Do you want to relay a little bit about your experiences? How would you critique and define radio's role after a major weather event, like a nor'easter and a flood, like Jonas, like Sandy, like the derecho? A lot of people don't have power, but they probably do have access to a battery-operated radio, car radio, whatnot. How vital? You can toot your own horn here if you want, but how vital does radio become in these situations?
Well, all the devices that we have here, our cell phones, these laptops, internet, the Wi-Fi, all that stuff becomes junk when the power goes out. And the only thing that survives are stations that have generators or happen to have a power source and battery-operated radios. And so after an event, I have a very specific memory of Sandy. Having somebody call me, we did overnight during Sandy, live overnight, so that there was some place that people could get information from or call and say if they had problems and maybe send people out to them. I have a very vivid memory of a woman calling, and she was so upset because they didn't listen to when they were told to evacuate. And the water was 6 feet deep in the first floor of her home, and she was on the second floor. And she didn't know what she was going to do. And the only thing she couldn't do was wait for the water to go down because obviously nobody could be there. But after this storm is the most important time for people to have a radio that operates, and what people need to do is test that radio every month or so to be sure that battery-operated radio works. And you want to be able to listen to what's going on. I don't know if your cell phone's going to work. You don't know if that's going to happen. But if you have a radio that you can listen to a station like WOND, and when events like that occur, we go live for as long as we possibly can. And some of the preparation, we had one of the producers that stayed at this station for 4 days during the derecho, and it's just it's the only way to get that information out to people, because all this other stuff just goes away. So it is. It's a very vital piece, and they don't do emergency announcements on your cell phones like they do on the radio. We have to test it every couple of days, and it says if there's going to be an event, you'll be told to go to a certain place or what's going to happen. And radio is that vital thing that happens to let people be informed as to what they need to do and where they need to go or how they can get help.
I might be wrong, but I feel like whenever I get one of those alerts on my phone, it's happening already. It's not an hour or two before. It's like flash flood warning, and I look outside and it's flooding.
Yeah.
But the radio, you're giving people more advance notice.
That's right.
And we did have another episode about emergency weather kits, and a battery-powered radio is one of the essentials to keep in your kit.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel having that responsibility to keep these people informed about the storm?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I really do, because you have a way to give back to your community. And I think it's a vital link to a lot of people. There are a lot of people who turn that radio on in the morning and they turn it off when they go to sleep at night. And they listen to that radio all day long. And they're linked to the community. We're their link to where to find things and where to get things done. And it's a vital portion of the things that we do. And we can never ever forget that, because we're the link that a lot of these people have to humanity. And they'll call you, and you talk to them on the phone, and that you're pretty much the only person they've talked to in a couple of days. So it's a very vital portion, and I really like it. It gives me an opportunity to give back to my community and be part of some things I would never be able to be part of.
Now, do most markets have a station that does what WOND does and kind of keep you informed throughout, during, before, after the storm? I mean, is that a universal thing across the country?
No,
no, it's not.
No, it's Dave Koski came in a few years ago, and he made us live and local from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And there's always somebody behind the desk that can answer the phone. So that's what it was very big for us to be live and local. There are other AM stations that do some live stuff and local stuff, but it's only for a couple of hours, and then they go to nationwide stuff and national feeds. We're unique in this area, probably unique in a lot of different areas, that we're live and local, and from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, and then if need be, it's 10 at night till 6 in the morning also. So yeah, we're kind of unique in that position, and it gives us. It gives us an edge. I think it gives us an edge.
I mean, and it does. I mean, because emergency managers know to get information to you guys.
Oh,
so
my
you guys
gosh,
can
yeah.
spread them out. And I mean, I know you have Assemblyman Mazzio or whoever, politicians, or you have the powers that be, just getting the information to you so you can disseminate it to your listeners. So so it's kind of like you guys are one of the central hubs. And like you said, cell phones die. Now, everyone should hopefully have a battery pack for their cell, but still, that runs out. I mean, if you're talking days and days, internet could be down. So radio is one of the few kind of like old, faithful, reliable ways. If you have a 10-day power outage like some of us had in the derecho, that's one of the fail-safes for most people, right?
Well, my buddy Tom Foley knew that if he called the station, he had as much time as he wanted to say whatever he was, because whatever he wanted. He was the emergency management director for Atlantic City, and a very dedicated guy, and I always appreciated him being around. But yeah, he knew he had time, and any one of the emergency management operators in any of the municipalities know that if they call, they have all the time they need to tell people what they need to do and where they need to go to get help, or who to call. And I remember I gave out the number a lot of times for, I think it was the Sheriff's Department during Sandy, and I gave out all those numbers as often as I could, just to be able to let people know where they had to go or who they had to get to if they needed help. So.
I'm going to ask you for a forecast now too. All right.
Okay.
30 years from now.
Yeah.
does radio still play the same role? I mean, because
Yes.
technology is always changing. This is just a hard yes. You
Yes.
think it will be?
Absolutely.
It will be there because
Absolutely.
and I think TV serves a purpose. As part of my job.
Yeah.
I think Facebook and Twitter and all those platforms serve a purpose. Newspapers serve a purpose. Do you think that radio purpose will remain steadfast throughout the generations?
You can get radio on your cell phone, right?
You can.
You can get radio almost anywhere you want to. And radio you can get for free just by having a device to pick it out of the air. And yeah, it's going to survive. It will survive long past all these other things. They decided a bunch of years ago AM radio was dead. And it's not really true because across the country, AM radio has had a resurgence. There's a problem with with being able to broadcast far enough so people can hear you, but it's not dead. It's not dead by a long shot.
Now, I do have a follow-up for that. With all these platforms, social media, to get information out there, do you think it makes it easier for broadcasters, or is it actually a challenge?
It's a bit of a challenge because people get accustomed to getting news feeds from these places and they don't really pay attention to the radio sometimes. But I think enough. I saw the statistic about how many people listen to radio every day in their car, and I think it's around 90% of people listen to the radio at least once during the day. And it still holds a big spot for a lot of people, and it will continue. But it makes it a little tougher on us. We have to be more up to date with our broadcasting. We broadcast ABC News at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour every hour, and that news is updated as often as possible. We have local news at the top and the bottom, or top of the hour every hour, and that we try to update that as much as we possibly can. So we have to be. It makes us work a little bit harder to be able to do those things, and I think that's good for us because it makes us a little bit sharper.
Okay. And when you
we
say
actually
local,
have Dan's weather forecast also.
well, then there you go.
Yeah, that's all you need, right?
Best station then.
Wow. That's why they can't call themselves the most accurate station. They got my weather on it, but other than that.
Now, when you say local, exactly what does that mean? What ground does that cover for people?
With our station, it actually is from the tip of Cape May to Tom's River, and it goes north and south real far. It doesn't go too far east because there's nobody on the other side that listens, but it actually, I've picked up WLND as far west as Berlin.
Wow.
So, didn't come in real nice, but I could listen, But so we have a pretty big area. Now, there are not many people outside of Atlantic and Cape May County that listen. But within Atlantic and Cape May County, we have a tremendous amount of listeners. In fact, it always surprises me how many people actually listen. I'm always shocked when I go someplace and somebody recognizes my voice, and they're from Cape May County somewhere, and they know who we are. But that's our local area. So we go. Actually, we have callers from Long Beach Island, and far down as Wildwood. So that's about it, really.
So when you're covering a storm, are you generally focusing on Atlantic and Cape May County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the difference, and Dan will tell you better than anybody, the difference in the way a storm reacts between Atlantic and Cape May County is phenomenal. Because the way the tides change, the tide may be low tide in Cape May County and high tide in Atlantic County.
We saw that during Sandy, how Brigantine get hit a lot harder than Ocean City, which get hit a lot harder than Cape May. Yeah, for two counties, the weather changes very greatly.
And during Sandy, all that prediction of that storm coming up the coast, they started predicting it, I think, Sandy was October 29th, and I think they started predicting that storm somewhere around June. But Dan was the only guy that figured out exactly where it was going to hit. He was within 25 miles of where that thing came ashore. This guy.
I would say I think it was one of my better forecasts, but it makes up for the derecho, which, we had an hour warning for that. But most, Sandy was
it
a
really
week.
an hour?
It was about an hour.
Not even that, really,
Yeah.
honestly. And derecho was one of the worst forecasts in terms of how severe it was based on how severe we thought it would be. Sandy was kind of 3 months later was one of our best forecasts ever. So go figure.
His face was as white as your sweater, like 9:45. I never forget him since.
I gotta get out of here.
There's something going on. I gotta get out of here.
I know radio. Your audience is older in general. Do you think you pick up younger listeners along the way? Because I know, especially AM radio. The population that grew up with it is older. It is aging. But like, do you see a resurgence amongst younger listeners?
Actually, I do. I give away stuff on the radio. Dave Koski always said I'm good at giving away other people's stuff, and I am very good at it. And I had one person win tickets to something, I forget what it was, and the woman said, "Yeah, I'm sitting outside the grade school waiting for my child to come out." So definitely, that's younger than the people that are my age.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a lot of people that listen, and they listen for a number of reasons. Some are just the shows, some are the guest shows, some of the prizes we give away, but there's a lot of reasons why. We figure our group starts around 40 or 45 and goes on up. So, yeah, we have a lot more younger listeners than we ever had. So.
Now, you are a resident and you were the mayor of Egg Harbor Township.
I sure was.
Can you tell us how, as mayor, you had to prepare your community for any coastal storms or major storms?
And what years were you mayor again?
94 and 95.
Okay. So you had a pretty quiet. I don't remember any big storms during your tenure.
There were none.
Was that one of your campaign promises?
Yeah, one of my we had no snowstorms.
But I'm sure you still had a plan in
Yes.
place.
Well,
if there were one.
what we did was it was all new to us in Egg Harbor Township. We appointed emergency management directors. We had the fire chief, and we also had the police chief that were co-directors for emergency management. And what we did was we set up the game plan. What will we do if something happened? How will we notify people that they had to get out? And where will we have shelters? So we put together the package that we needed to be able to take care of the people in Egg Harbor Township. And you have to remember that in 1969 there were 7,000 people that lived in Egg Harbor Township, and today there's 50,000. So we had this expansive growth, and we had to be prepared for. We have a lot of coastal areas. We have the piece in West Atlantic City that's all coastal. We have Seaview Harbor. We have the piece over off of Somers Point, Anchorage Point. We have a lot of coastal areas we had to be concerned about. We have a lot of coastal footage in Egg Harbor Township. So we had to put together these plans, and we did it with the help of the emergency management directors, and FEMA provided us help too, and they gave us suggestions as to what we need to do. And that's what we did. We put together the package, so when an event happened, all we had to do was pick up the phone and make the calls, and everything fell into place, and everybody went to work. And that was the smartest thing that we could do, was to be prepared. And that's what the smartest thing people should do, is to be prepared also. So.
It's one thing we always preach. Again, Tidal Flooding Talk, brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. You can visit our website, can tune in to Tidal Flooding Talk here at the Irish Pub every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Just a quick few shout-outs. Daniel Ricco says, "Hi, Bob," as does Justin Thomas. So these could be WOND listeners, or they could be Tidal Flooding watchers, or Tidal Flooding Talk watchers, or they could perhaps be both. Absolutely right. Craig Camp says, "Hi, Bob." Kristen Kaiser, regular viewer, appreciate you tuning in as well. James McClure, hi to you. Tracy Barger, nice to see you. Kevin Hahn, making reference to the fact that my Patriots lost a couple weeks ago, because I'm wearing the Patriots shirt, 41-33.
To Detroit.
They did win today.
To Detroit.
Well, they did beat Miami today, my wife's team.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And I should also, I'd be remiss to say that Bob has one other big role in that he actually married my wife and I.
Yes, I did.
4 years ago last week.
That's it.
So, and he gave us he was responsible for a beautiful sunny day in Linwood. It rained 4 straight Saturdays, but Bob ensured it was going to be nice weather. It was at the Linwood
What more
Country
can you
Club.
ask for?
The coolest thing you do as a mayor is weddings. And when my time as mayor was over, I had an uncle who had his own church, and he'd been telling me for years I should become ordained because it's really great. And my uncle lives up in Hunlocks Creek, Pennsylvania. Lived in Hunlocks Creek. So he convinced me to become ordained, and I was. And I probably did 100 and some weddings at Renault since 1993, and Dan was kind enough to ask me to do his and Amanda's, and of course I jumped at the opportunity because it was cool. I think Dan's a great guy, and I can't believe he got a wonderful woman like Amanda, but that's all right.
I can't either sometimes. And Bob didn't stay to lay at the dance floor. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're expecting our first. Amanda and I, we made it Facebook official, so I guess we can make it Tidal Flooding official as well. Tidal Flooding Talk official. So, yeah, absolutely excited. That's her birthday in March is when we do it.
Yeah.
So,
Any name ideas yet?
We do. Non-weather related names I've been forced into.
What about the middle name? Can the middle name be weather
Tom
related?
is, of course, for a boy. So, But Justin Thomas, nice to see you. Let's see. Yeah, Judy mentions you can actually. I do WFMZ TV now, so one person said you can actually see my forecast here. You can now because WFMZ, even though we're based in Pennsylvania, is now being able to be seen all throughout South Jersey.
Oh, wow.
So we're on channel 20. That's our channel you can watch the newscast on, and we're on channel 249. That's our regular weather station. So we're actually on Comcast now down here. So thanks, Judy, for mentioning that. Amanda, my wife, says hi, Bob.
Hey, Amanda.
Roger Cope, always an alcohol-induced question. What kind of beer is Bob drinking?
Drinking
Sam
Adams
right?
Oktoberfest.
Always a good decision. From Boston, New England.
That's it.
all right.
Yep.
And let's see. So I appreciate all the questions and comments, guys. And my scroller seems to know stuff. There we go. Vicky Biggs, nice to see you on. Tracy Ann. Paula, good evening to you. And thanks for the congrats, guys. And it's, again, so good to have Bob here every Sunday, 7 p.m. Well, Bob's not here every Sunday. He might be here every Sunday at the bar, but he's here this Sunday as our guest. I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate your offering. Thank you
Bob,
very much.
can you remind everybody when they can watch or listen to your radio show?
Yes, I'm on Monday to Friday from 1 to 3 on WOND 1400 AM. It's also 92.5 FM. And I'm on Saturday morning for my long-running show, 21 years, Your Neighborhood Garage. And my friend Joe Mazie, who lives in the Keys, he and I share duties. And I always tell people that I just call my friend Joe, and we talk about cars, and we call it a car show. So works out pretty well. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So.
Now, the New Jersey Coastal Coalition and the Irish Pub would like to thank you for joining us tonight with
All
an
right.
Irish Pub t-shirt.
Wow, check it out, huh? Irish Pub. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And Bob, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Dan.
Bob.
Thanks, Palma.
All right, and for all of us here at Tidal Flooding Talk, we'll see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. We'll be talking with fellow meteorologist, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, Joe Martucci, press of Atlantic City, kind of my predecessor in that role for the press, and Joe will be here to talk about weather forecasting, storms, and so join Palma and me next Sunday, either here at the pub or right here on Facebook. Have a good night.
Good night.